The human body is a magnificent storyteller. At each moment, the trillions of cells that make us up are communicating with one another, sending information around our bodies to make them work. Now, each little piece of information tells us a story about what's happening inside of us and about how we are functioning. In a healthcare setting, we can use this information to manage chronic conditions, prevent illness, and also the outbreaks of disease around the world. Hopefully, we can even turn these stories into improving the quality of our lives and the lives of others. The only problem is that these stories are extremely difficult to understand. They come wrapped up in data that we have to collect, analyze, and make decisions from. Now, due to the rapid advances in sensors and monitoring technology, such as MRIs, the electrocardiogram, and the rapid proliferation of smartwatches and connected devices, to name just a few, this data is coming in faster than ever before and in quantities greater than we can get a handle on. Imagine having to empty a 10-gallon bucket of water with only a teaspoon. The question is, what can we do to unravel these data sets we are collecting and listen to the stories contained within them to improve our quality of care? My name is Nathan Gold, as you've heard, and I'm an applied mathematician working on trying to answer this question using mathematics. With mathematics, we can build models of the extremely complex systems that make up our bodies and gain a deep understanding of the mechanisms at work down below. We can analyze these massive data sets we're collecting and find insights within them that we may have previously overlooked. Then, we can turn those insights into decisions and policies that can help empower physicians improve care like never before. I want to share with you some of those examples of ways we're using mathematics to listen to the stories our bodies are telling us, and hopefully channel a visionary future where mathematics, medicine, computer science, everything else can work together to improve our lives. So how do we do things right now? Well, a brilliant researcher comes up with a nice idea. They then go out, they collect patients, or they make up an idealized animal model, they perform their experiment, and then they draw conclusions from the data they've collected to either support or disprove their hypotheses. While this is an incredibly useful way of learning about the system being studied, we're naturally going to be limited in the amount of data we can collect and the stories we learn from the information that we extract from them. This is where I believe applied mathematicians can step in and help. Much like experimentalists, us applied mathematicians begin by looking at a system or process we want to study and try to identify the essential variables that make it up. For example, suppose we want to study how blood flows around the veins and arteries of our body. Well, in this case, the essential variables are going to be the rate of flow, the viscosity of the blood that's moving around your body, the radii of the various vessels, the pressure your heart is pumping at, and the length that the blood has to flow. Then, we use the data we collect, as well as our physical insights of the situation we're looking at, to create and understand the fundamental relationships that connect these variables together. For example, we know that flow rates go up when more pressure is applied. We then can create a mathematical model by translating these fundamental relationships into a system of formulas that we can use to experiment with. This means that we're no longer limited by the data we can collect from an experiment, as we can simulate any conditions we want, opening up the opportunity for endless experimentation, only at the cost of the electricity it takes to power our laptops. Suddenly, those stories that were hidden away in the data we're collecting begin to reveal themselves in brand new ways. And hopefully, equipped with this information, gives physicians the opportunities to be able to intervene more effectively than ever before. I'm sure you've probably all experienced the situation of waking up with a headache or a strange pain somewhere that just won't go away. I know I sure have. In those situations, what should you do? Well, you can go to the doctor's office or the emergency room of a hospital if you believe things are serious enough and ask for an exam. Now, during one of these exams, physicians or your care provider are acting exactly like the medical researchers I just described. They're collecting data and trying to support or disprove their hypotheses about what they believe could be wrong with you. For example, what would happen? Questions will be asked of you. A blood pressure cuff gets strapped around your arm. A sensor pinches your finger to measure the amount of oxygen in your blood, and maybe a set of electrodes is attached to your skin to measure the electrical activity of your heart. Now, if you're a particularly difficult patient who asks lots of questions, like I am, maybe the doctor will try to appease you by sending you for a set of x-rays or one of those MRIs that I talked about before. Now, I want you to instead picture the situation of waking up with that pain or that headache, but in a rural village in Kenya, or for that matter, in a remote community in our Canadian north. That's a picture of Iqaluit in Nunavut, a place where such access to world-class medical technology and expertise is a dream rather than a reality. Now, if only we could use those advances in mathematics, sensors, and communication technology to collect, measure, and send massive amounts of information over very great distances. Now, you're probably thinking, shouldn't someone have made an app for that by now? Well, you're actually not that far off. Together with my colleagues, we've been working on using mathematical modeling and leveraging advances in thermal camera sensor technology to try and make that dream a reality. Now, here's a picture of my face taken with a thermal camera. Okay? The cellular processes occurring inside of me at this very moment are generating heat, which is being emitted from my face at particular wavelengths, and subsequently being captured by the carefully calibrated sensors of a thermal camera. This heat, the location on my face where it is being emitted, and the way in which it is being generated and released all tell us a great deal of information about the underlying processes that are happening inside of me right now. Now, we know that blood is hotter than the surrounding tissue, so we can take advantage of that fact and construct a mathematical model of how heat is flowing around in my face. Then, we can use this model to identify where the principal blood vessels should be located on my face. Those are the black squiggly lines you can see on the right. Once we've done this, we can then take thermal videos of my face and identify where heat is flowing and connect that back to the mathematical models of what's happening inside of me. If you'll recall the model I just mentioned of blood flow, we can connect the heat flow we're observing from our thermal cameras and the data that we're collecting like that to the model of blood flow to figure out where our blood is actually flowing. So now, rather than having to be connected to an expensive and uncomfortable array of sensors, I can simply take a thermal video of myself and acquire vital signs exactly the same way. This means that for only the rapidly decreasing cost of thermal cameras and smartphones, communities around the world can have access to the medical diagnostics we enjoy here so easily. Now, indeed, researchers around the world are already taking advantage of this sort of technology to do exactly that. And one example I'm particularly interested in and excited about is the use of thermal cameras to monitor the health of newborn infants in neonatal intensive care units. I'm sure you'll all agree with me that we don't want to test out experimental treatments on babies, right? With mathematics, we don't actually have to. Now, using thermal cameras, we can identify if an infant is feeling pain or not by looking at where temperature elevation is in particular locations on the infant's skin. Then we can connect that data that we have acquired to one of our mathematical models of the underlying processes in the baby. This will allow us to simulate different treatment conditions and different effects only by running an experiment as a mathematical model. Perhaps the pain the infant is feeling is being brought on by an inflammatory response to an infection resulting in elevated temperature. By using our model to simulate the effect of controlling the inflammation, we're able to see whether or not that's going to be the most appropriate course of action and guide physicians in a way that they can most effectively treat the condition. So I want to end tonight by saying that mathematical modeling offers a new frontier to be able to assist physicians and medical researchers provide the care and insights that we need to be able to live a better life. Not only can we use mathematics to find out new discoveries in those data sets that we've been collecting, but we can also use it to be able to analyze and create models of the systems we're interested in. Let's use mathematics to listen to the stories our bodies are telling us. Thank you.